Fabulous with Fabio. My guest is the Fabulous, and I'm Fabio, President of the International Excellence Society. I'm very happy today to have here with me my dear guest, Leesa Csolak. Is that the right way to say your
Yes,
your
exactly. It's tricky. The last name's tricky. I know, but that was
Oh,
perfect. I'm so thrilled to be here.
thank you so much. I'm very, I feel blessed for having the chance to talk to you today and bringing you to our audience here at YouTube with Fabio Marques 007, because you're going to share with us very exciting things, because you are exciting human beings. So you have done so much. You have an amazing journey. So of course, I would like to first allow you to introduce yourself and talk to us a little bit about your journey, your personal journey. And then we can go after that. We can go after your professional journey and the amazing projects you have done, people you have worked with, what you're doing right now, and how you can add value to society. So first, your values, yourself. Talk to us about you, please, Leesa.
Amazing. Yes, thank you so much again for having me. My name is Leesa Csolak, and I am a career counselor, and I help people to bridge from just being a talented individual to being someone who has a successful career in the performing arts, on stage, film, television, Broadway, all of it. And my journey, it's an interesting one. It took a lot of twists and turns along the way. At this age, that's what happens, right? Our lives touch a lot of different people and a lot of different things. And I was raised by two very left brain individuals, very loving and caring left brain individuals. And I was always very animated. My mom used to call me Sarah Bernhardt, who was an older famous Hollywood dramatic artist.
And a suggestive last name, Bernhardt, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I was very young, and I was influenced by people like Shirley Temple. I would watch all of her movies. I could do all of the dances as a 5 or 6 year old would do, trying to pick it up off of television. I knew all the songs. I was mesmerized, by all the old Hollywood movies. And what was great was, even though my mom was very into, she was actually a tax specialist and an accountant, and she loved Broadway, and she loved all the old Broadway albums, and we had all of those in the house, and I was able to listen to them until I, scratched them to death. And so my life kind of right from the start, and they do say that if you can find a career that is something that you do when you're a child, something you like in regard to play, you'll have a happy life, right? So for the most part, I feel like that's what happened with me. I was at the age of 8 to 10, I was putting on shows in the garage. I was doing all kinds of crazy things. But at the same time, I was very academic. And so my parents, being academic as well, they steered me in that direction. And so, long story short, in regard to the youth side of things, I just, everywhere I went, things were happening. Offers and opportunities were being thrown at me. And my parents didn't know any different. There was no internet. There was no way of researching any of this. So I would be involved in something, and my picture would end up on the cover of a newspaper, or I would be invited to perform in New York at something, or I would be like, it started literally, you're going to laugh, Fabio, you're going to laugh. It started with Little Miss America. I was invited. I haven't told anybody this, so the world is finding this out now.
We reveal the secret now here.
I'm telling you, I was invited to do that. So, and that was young. I mean, we're talking 5, 6 years old. But anyway, what ended up happening was I ended up training at quite a high level in the performing arts as a young person, but was not encouraged as a young adult to study in university level education, anything like that. So I went into my higher education as a biology and engineering double major. Yeah. Okay. So school became something that was kind of an extension of high school. You know, it felt like something that I just had to do. So I would sneak away and I would go to New York City and I would take classes at Broadway Dance Center and Steps. And I would take class with all the iconic choreographers that are so well known, you know, to that community. And I would go to the Met and I would take voice lessons. And I everywhere I went to audition for various things like that in regard to training, they'd be like, yes, yes, we want to work with you. Yes, come in here. Did I even for a moment think that I could actually do this for a living? Like that I could actually perform and get paid to do that and have that type of career? Absolutely not. It was the furthest thing from my mind because it was something that my parents didn't really see as a viable profession or as a respectable profession, quite honestly, sadly. So it always kind of felt like this.
Right here, just a parenthesis, real short. We have so much in common because I had the same experience, you know, as a child and as a teenager. I was in magazines and newspapers, and I was going to that direction until when I was 14, my mom said, now you have to study, you know, technical high school. There was this technical high school in Brazil, and then you'll find a real job. So I loved that. I was doing performing. I was dancing like Michael Jackson, you know, like Elvis. I was doing, you know, singing, and then suddenly, no, it stopped everything. Now it's time to get a life.
Yes.
So, because they didn't know any better, right? So.
Yes, they didn't. And there was no, you know, now I feel like today, teenagers, even children, older children, but teenagers, preteens, young adults, they have access to all of this information. Unfortunately, in this field, a lot of it is very hard to decipher. It's not all real, and there can be a lot of scams that you run into online. But for the most part, there is information out there that people do get into the industry. But what's difficult is doing it without having been born into it. Because I think the perception of the average person is that you have to have family that has already been involved in film, television, Broadway to be able to get there. And that's so not the case. So, yeah, so I went to school. I came out of, I'm sorry?
Ask you something, because right on that point, I have the impression that the entire society has no clue what is the percentage of people that really become successful in the showbiz, right? And I was talking to some guys this morning. They were managers for soccer, soccer players. And they said, I didn't know about that. I knew it was a little percentage, but they told me only 0.03%, 0.03% of soccer players make more than $10,000 a month. 0.03. Is that about the same percentage in show business, that only less than 1% really make it, or is it?
I don't know the exact numbers. That's interesting you mentioned that, because I'm going to look that up when we get off this call, because I think that's interesting. I don't know if those statistics are out there. I would think it's not as small a percentage, only because there's many different outlets to perform as a performance artist, whether you're a singer, dancer, actress, actor, where with soccer, there's only that one outlet, the professional side, right? So I think the percentage is probably higher, would be my guess, but I can tell you that if you wanted to get into a university for acting, singing, dancing, or musical theater, which would be all three, right? They usually are looking at 3,000 to 4,000 candidates, and they're choosing anywhere from 6 to 12 females and the same number of males. So they're bringing in a class for whatever year. They're bringing in maybe 24, maybe 20, maybe less. Carnegie Mellon, usually less. And so it's very difficult to get the higher level training at a collegiate level.
We're talking about 0.4%. Right there, selecting to be accepted into the university. Oh my God.
Yes, yes. But there's a lot of other ways to do it. There's a lot of people that break in that don't do the university path. And part of that is because the dance community, as well as the vocal training community, has really become much more in the public eye, over the last, 20 years with So You Think It Could Dance and all these other reality shows where they're showing all the different talents. And so it has definitely become something that has been a lot more out in the public. It's certainly helped with a lot of male dancers, to be able to break into the business. And of course, it spurred the competition dance circuits that are all over the country here in the US as well as elsewhere. So it definitely has put more people into that pot. So maybe the number is similar to the soccer world. I don't know. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, if you're arriving right now to this interview, we're talking to Leesa Csolak.
Yeah, it's as if the C wasn't there.
Yeah, well, just say Leesa because she's so fabulous. You're gonna remember that name. Leesa was Leesa, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So before we continue, I would like you, Leesa, to share with us some names that everybody knows that you have been working with or you worked with in the past. Some projects you have been involved. Some famous people that so people can relate that we're talking to the Leesa. It's not any Leesa, it's the Leesa, the one that can really help people open doors to the showbiz and make the talent turn that into a professional career. So just share with us some specific names that
Sure. Well, when I was, so anyway, back to the story of where things went, I'm going to go for a moment. So what ended up happening was I was given some opportunities to do some choreography and some producing and directing in various aspects of the industry. One was for Giancarlo Menotti's 70th birthday. He came over from, at the time he was living in Europe, he came over to New York to do his comic opera, The Hero, in honor of his birthday. And so I was asked to do the choreography for the ballet, which was very exciting. I was very young.
You created the choreography for that.
Excuse me?
You created the choreography for that.
Yes. Yeah. So
you are a pretty good dancer then.
Yeah. I was very much a dancer as well as a gymnast, and I could do a lot of, I wouldn't call them true contortionist movement, but I was very flexible in many ways. And I also could sing very well. So I took lessons with a gentleman by the name of Barbu Dumitrescu. This is going way back. And at the Met. And again, I auditioned for him for something else. And he ended up grabbing me out of this opportunity that I was, auditioning for that had to do with being involved in a group setting for some pop music things. And he said, no, I want to work with you individually. And we're going to do opera. And I was singing arias and all these things. And I went in to sing pop music and I came out singing opera at the Met. What am I doing? But it was all training. So all of that training certainly has come in quite handy over the years. So that's been a good thing. But and when I did that, and I was, as I said, I was young, I was in my early 20s. I was rubbing elbows at the weekend of performances for this big celebration of his birthday with Robert Redford, Carolyn Kennedy, like all these huge people in the performance industry. And it was very odd because I called home to say, okay, everything's done. It's over. They're going to have a get together afterwards. I'm really not sure what it was. And my parents were like, oh, you don't need to stay for that. You don't need to do that. Because you're young and New York City can be really scary. And at the time, Giuliani hadn't cleaned it up yet. So it was pretty scary. And so they just didn't feel comfortable. So back then we listened to the people that were closest to us. So I said, okay, and I went home. So I didn't really have the opportunity in that moment to network, which is something that I teach to all of my clients, how to network and what to do in regard to anything and everything that they're trying to do career-wise, that it's important to make the time to do that. So, so that was a lesson learned. I also worked with Madonna later on. as time went on, I ended up doing a lot of work with the Miss America preliminary pageants and those kind of things. I was doing choreography every chance I got. I actually created my own dance company, and they were performing all over. We went to Europe and did a tour there and in the former Soviet Union, which was crazy and super fun. So I was finding my own way. I was creating my own resume lines, you know? So, yeah, so then I ended up meeting someone and decided to settle down the little white picket fence in a house in the country. And I opened a performing arts school. And so from the performing arts school, I ended up doing a lot of different projects for Sony. Do you remember the old VHS tapes?
Yes.
We did children's. Yes, I did choreography and directing and helped to produce children's programming, and did a lot in regard to trying to pitch different things to a lot of the big companies like Nickelodeon and such. So I was in that space at that time. And the performing arts school was doing great, and I was close enough to New York City so I could bring all of my friends and associates and people I was running into to come teach at the school. So the school ended up doing extremely well. We continued to produce students that went on to do professional work, that got on Broadway, into television, into films, voiceover work, animation, like everything. And so I started, and I did that by helping them find managers and agents. I wished I had someone like me when I was young, but it didn't exist, right? It wasn't something that was possible. So that's where my passion comes from. That's where, you know, the loyalty is to that, to helping people to bridge, to helping them if they have that passion, if they have the talent and ability, and if they have the grit and the work ethic, you know, to do it. And if they do, you know, I'm the first one that will help them and do everything I possibly can to connect them to the right people, to teach them what to do, all of that. And I've been doing that for over 40 years.
I would like to stress positively when you said work ethic, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say they have work ethic, but it's not really the case. Could you define for us what is your take, your definition of work ethic?
Of work ethic? That is an awesome question, and I am happy to answer it. Okay, so my philosophy is that preparedness is everything. And you want to prepare as much as you possibly can based on the time frame that you have for whatever it is that you're going to be doing, that you care about, that you want bad enough. And everyone has a different take on the amount of, say, time or the amount of effort that we're adding all this into work ethic. I'm putting the recipe together. So that hard work, or that time frame and your perception of that is very important. So let's say I said to you, Fabio, I'm going to give you an audition. It's going to come up tomorrow, and you need to create a self-tape, and I need to have it in my inbox by 3 p.m. Now, let's say you are working all day, like a regular, work day, and you still aren't done with work today, and you have a dinner party to go to. What are you going to do? You have to memorize 2 sets of sides, 2 little pieces of the script for the audition. Let's say it's a film audition, and you need to make that happen. So how are you going to work that out? How are you going to make that happen? The work ethic can come in tight little packages like that, versus also having the long-term passion and goal and the willingness to do what needs to be done for that audition that came up so quickly that you had to juggle everything to make that work. But then if you didn't get it, if you did not get called back, if you did not get that project, it's okay. you just let it go because you learned from doing it. You learned more from the process. Yes, you had to suck it up and do what needed to be done to get that in time, but you also have to not give up. You know, you have to not say, well, I put all that work in. How come I didn't get it? Why didn't I get that call back? You know, you need to stick with it. There has to be a certain level of stick-to-itiveness and of fortitude would be the word to just push ahead and continue to, you know, to work over a long period of time. I have some clients who work for 6 months and I'm able to help them get a manager or an agent to rep them to get into the biggest, best rooms so that they can audition for the top film opportunities or Broadway opportunities. But then I have other people who it takes a year or a year and a half. You know, I think so. Work ethic, I think, involves a lot of things. And it also, on the top of that, has to be your attitude. In my book, the glass is always half full.
Great.
It's always half full.
And you touched the point, very important. A lot of people can do whatever it takes to get one thing done in a short period of time. I know a lot of people, yes, I have to do it. I'll drop everything else. I'll do it and I'll make it happen. But then when they don't get what they were expecting, they get a no, they got rejected. They are incapable of keep working and preparing themselves for the next opportunity. They cannot see logic in working now without having a short-term objective in front of them.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second to tell you that that is something that I have seen more of in the last 15 years than I have in all the years I've been doing this, that many people do not want to continue to train and to work during the time periods, even when they don't have an audition or they don't have a performance or they don't have an opportunity. They want to do exactly what you just described. They want to do it in a short, quick amount of time, maybe not overnight, but in a short period of time. And they want to just get everything really quick. They want to be able to.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you're good.
They think in terms of hours, days, or weeks, but they cannot think in terms of months and years. So this is crazy. You know,
absolutely.
And you're saying you can apply this to everything, and I totally agree. Everything that I accomplished in life didn't come easy. It came after years and years of preparation, sometimes months, years, sometimes decades. But they came, and I was ready when they came. Because I love the preparation. I love evolving every day. And I was talking to my martial arts master. He is 5 times world champion and 15 times Pan-American champion in the master category, right?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So, and when I was preparing for my first championship, my first Pan-American championship, I remember I was just coming back from 18 years, actually 22 years doing physiotherapy because of my car crash. I couldn't play sports for 22 years. So I was coming back. I was 2 years into martial arts training, and it was coming, closer to the Pan-American Championship. And I asked my master, I said, listen, what is the secret, right? I really want to win this. He said, listen, the secret is not thinking about the championship day. The secret is loving the practice. If you love every minute of the practice, championship will be a natural consequence or not, and it doesn't matter. Right? Because even if you don't get the championship, you're improving your health, your balance, your control, your mental health, everything. So the practice is what gives you the most benefit. So I practice, and I always like to practice. So there was the reinforcement that I needed, and I had conclusions in the journey to that. And I had problems, and I had back problems. But at the end, I was so relaxed and happy when the championship day came that I became the Pan-American champion, the oldest Pan-American champion, 42 years old at that time.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Because of this love for practice and as you said, preparedness, right? Be ready. Yes.
And it's funny that you say about the practice. I preach and have preached my entire life to my students and my clients that you have to love the process. If you want your child or your teen to get an agent or manager, start working in the professional side of the industry prior to them becoming an adult, they have to love the process. They have to love rehearsal. They have to love the training. They have to love going through the process of memorizing all of the lines or the songs and all the minutia that comes with that. You have to love that. And there's a certain, I have to share that I share your passion for that, because there's something really magical about being in a room with other people working toward a common goal, whether that's something you're doing together or individually, whether it's, you know, you're singing by yourself or you're singing with everyone else, or you're doing a scene by yourself or a monologue, whatever it happens to be in this world, that truly is magical. And unless you're someone who has been in that room and participated at the level that you participated at with that activity versus anything else, whether it's the performing arts or something else, it hits you in a way. And tell me, maybe you didn't feel this, but tell me, I'm going to get really real here for a second. You become so vulnerable in the moment that you almost feel naked in a way. You know what I'm saying? Not literally, but you have to release everything about who you are in that moment to be able to give up who you are personally, to become in our space, to become the story, to become the character, to become everything you want to present with that song. And there are performers that never feel that. They never work hard enough. They never spend enough time to get to that place, to feel that or to experience that. And it's almost addictive in a way. Once you get to that place, once you feel that moment. And I did a lot of training with primarily teens and young adults, one-on-one, to get them to that place, to give up who they are for that story in a classroom setting. And I've had other teachers with me when I've actually gone through this process, one of whom actually was from New York City and was a professional dancer, and she was teaching with me. We were tag teaching in the room. And she literally broke down crying while she watched this happen. It's a magical thing. Did you feel that with what you did in that moment and it's not after winning, it's during the process, or it can happen in performance.
It's during the process. And it's, as you said, it's magical because people want to show up as if they were already ready. Because everybody says you have to be confident, you have to present yourself as a winner. And so people have facades, right?
Yes.
And only when they really commit to practice in a higher level, that facade goes away and they become real. And as you said, they become vulnerable enough to be able to accept change and transformation.
Yes, absolutely. I love it.
Otherwise, you're never going to make it. You need to go through this portal, let's say, this emotional portal, so you become great. You become another person, a new person that is able of something more than the old person was able to do. Absolutely.
I find that when I'm working with, and this has been for years, like I said, it's been over 40 years, but when I'm working with beginners who just started out and they start to get a little bit of an idea of what they're doing, whether that's singing, dancing, or acting, they get a little bit. And they're literally just touching, they're just kind of getting there where they seem to kind of have an idea, and they get very cocky about things. They get very like, I'm so good. I'm so much better than this person or that person in the public school or the private school where they go to, for their academics. Oh my goodness. And then when they get into like an intermediate space, it gets harder. The work is harder. You have to work even harder. So the amount of children, teens, young adults that get to that intermediate level and are willing to put the work in and have the grit and the fortitude and I'm going to do this, I'm going to put the hours in that are necessary. If they can get through that intermediate level, let's call it, for lack of a better term, And to get to where I would consider them like an advanced, someone who's like advanced pro level, it is exactly what you just described. They get into the advanced level, or they're at the top of that intermediate, push and push and push, and they're like, oh, I'm terrible. And they're probably very good at what they're doing at that point, but they realize where the bar is,
Yes.
Which is something that is so interesting that we even got to this point in this conversation, because I talk a lot with my clients about the barometer of the industry. Where are you in that space? And that would be the same for anything, right? Like, where are you in the space? And people talk about faking it till you make it. Like, I don't know if I believe in that, just because I think you have to be proficient enough, right? So I get people, and I actually look at their assets. I look at videos of them executing the different things, and I try to figure out, okay, let's see where you are. Maybe one aspect of what you're doing is where it needs to be. Maybe you're in the top 10 to 15% of what I would see that you would need to end up in a Broadway show and to be able to audition and play with the big boys, versus you might need a little bit more training. You might need a little bit more training. So where is that? And I get all kinds of different perceptions. People, it's very, very difficult to figure that out. And I think today, even more so than years ago, it was like, oh, I'm not, my child's not good enough. My teen isn't good enough. I'm not good enough. And now I feel like it's flipped. Everybody thinks they're good enough until they kind of get in a room.
The complete opposite, right? And so the other extreme.
Yeah, it totally has. It really is. It's really kind of, there's very few people that I see, at least, who either they're really ready to go, and the reverse is true. They think they're not ready, but the majority of people, I have to say, are in that other space because their child just got the lead in the high school play. So they think, okay, we're ready. We're going to do this. Certainly they need the education so that they can move forward and train their child appropriately and, do what they need to do to get them to where they want to go. I mean, obviously being young, they have a lot of time to train. Like you said, you trained for a really long time to get to that achievement. How old were you when you won?
42.
After having an accident.
The oldest champion.
I'm going to look that up. We're all going to look that up. That's so cool.
Songan Taekwondo, ATA, American Taekwondo Association. It was actually in 2012. Anyway, one thing that you said about fake it until you make it, a lot of people believe in that, and I believe in make it until you make it. So make the effort. Make the effort until you make it, right?
Yes, I totally agree. I totally agree.
Much better believe it and make it until you make it. And one thing that is important to highlight here is that we all have to believe that we are good enough to attempt to try.
Yes, absolutely.
But we must be better every day to continue. Right. So yes, we are good enough because we deserve the chance, but we are never good enough that we can take the luxury of stop trying or studying or practicing. Right.
Absolutely.
So this is pretty important. I have like a saying, whenever I'm training sales teams or leaders, leaders about high performance, and I do that a lot, how to achieve high performance, top performance. And I start saying, listen, if you think you are already good, you can become very good, right? If you think you are already very good, you can become excellent. If you think you are already excellent, you can be extraordinary. If you think you are extraordinary, you can be outstanding. If you think you're outstanding, you can be spectacular. And if you think you are already spectacular, you can be more humble.
Yes. I love it.
Come on, man. So we always have, infinite journey to evolve, and we should be humble enough to keep learning, practicing, studying, and asking for help. This is the simplest expression of humility, right? Ask for help. Nobody knows everything. we never know everything. We need guidance, we need mentors, we need coaches, we need teachers, we need help.
Absolutely.
And we should be humble enough to ask for help so we can grow and become the best version today, because tomorrow is going to be another one.
Yes, I agree.
So now let's talk about what you're doing right now, or you have done, of course, but let's talk about specific ways people interested in having a career in the performing arts, what they can expect from working with you. Maybe we can start mentioning some achievements of your students.
Sure.
And then so we can give them, some people need that, right? I need perspective. I need to believe that this is possible before I'm interested. So if you can share with us some of your students' achievements,
sure.
And then you can migrate to how you work with those talents until they become professionals in this area.
Sure. Yeah, sure. The I mean, like I said, I've been helping people to bridge from being talented into this professional performing arts space for a very, very long time. I have a number of I'll just mention a few of the students.
Yeah,
I'll give you specific examples. So and then people can even Google this and they'll find it if they're concerned. So one of my students, his name is Cameron Clifford. He is no longer in the performing arts at the moment professionally, but he was very young and I met him when he was 4 years old, and he had this sparkle about him and this like charismatic thing that you just could not teach. And I caught it right away. He had come into my school at the time. And I talked to his parents and I said, listen, I have a direct line to agents and managers in New York City. I really think that your son has something really special. And I feel like he could be doing things in the professional space. Would you like to meet with me and have a conversation? I could talk to you about this. And they said, what? They thought I was crazy. They thought I was out of my mind, which is what a lot of parents.
Scam.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, who is this woman? And why is she looking at my 4-year-old? But he had something really special, and he had signed up for a summer camp at the time. And we saw that he had a lot of the attributes that we would look for in a young child, like an 8 and under kind of child, someone who has sequencing skills and they have musicality, and, not that they have to be able to sing or dance well, they're babies at that point. But, yeah, so every year I would talk to the mom and dad and they're like, no, we're not ready. No, we're not ready. Not right. Well, when he was, I think he had just turned 8. They came to me and they said, we're ready. We want to have a conversation. So we had a conversation. I explained to them about the industry and about what I do specifically. And they said yes to everything. They said, let's do it. So we had headshots done and created a resume. And people are probably listening, laughing. How do you write a resume for an 8-year-old? Is she out of her mind? But actually for agents and managers to look at, someone that young, they want to have an idea about what they, what they're like, what they can do, what they like to do with their play. Can they ride a bicycle? Do they like animals? Do they do well with animals? Do they read well? What do they like to do in school? Are they good at drawing? Do they have a collection? I had a client who was young, a young boy. He started with me when he was 9. He had a tie collection. Like a tie, a man's tie. He loved getting dressed up in suits and ties.
I had a tie collection when I was 9. I had like 200 ties when I was 9.
No way. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what this kid did too. He just loved having ties. So that's a cool thing, right? That's like a conversation starter. So you would want to put some of those things on the resume for a young child. And he also like sang in church with the church choir, like he did different things, So there's different things that you wouldn't assume you could put on an actual resume, but you can with a child, right? So we put together the resume, we took some pictures, and we didn't spend a lot of money. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can just take pictures. And now we have these wonderful, beautiful technological phones that do wonderful jobs at taking portraits, so you can take them yourself. And, then what I did was I connected to some of my relationships in the New York market, reached out to some agents and managers myself. And then there's ways that we can actually send the information to different agents and managers so that they can take a look and see if they need someone like, in this case, it was Cameron, if they needed someone like him on their roster. And within a short amount of time, he got signed with one of the largest children's managers on the East Coast.
Wow.
And he started auditioning, and right away, he booked a McDonald's national commercial, which was very cool and super fun for him. And then he ended up, shortly after that, he booked Waiting for Godot in New York City. And it was being redone with John Goodman, John Glover, Bill Irwin, and why can't I think of the fourth person off the top of my head? I'll remember it before we're done with the conversation. Anyway, and these were all four of these gentlemen were icons, like they're super famous icons in the Broadway world. And here was little Cameron, who was very small for his age as well. Like at 8, he looked like he was 5. So yeah, I got to go to the show and, watching him in the final curtain call bows, this tiny little thing, with these iconic men in this play. And then after that, he continued to work, doing voiceover work, a lot of commercial work, some film work. And then he ended up getting Michael in Billy Elliot on Broadway. So he was one of the Michaels, they had to keep rotating them. If on Broadway, fun fact, on Broadway, if a child grows 2 inches or gains 10 pounds, they are no longer able to participate in that role because the role is very specific, right, for kids.
Yeah.
And so as soon as you start to grow, you essentially grow out of the role, sadly. So they would rotate the Billies and the Michaels. But honestly, the role of Michael on Broadway was the most celebrated role for a minor, for a boy, in the history of Broadway. So that's his claim to fame. And then he did the national tour and the international tour and won lots of awards. But that was one client. I have a number of clients that wanted to be Rockettes, and they went through the process with me, and I, guided them and gave them a lot of, a lot of encouragement to continue to keep trying and keep doing it, because that's specifically what they wanted. But a lot of the students, the students and clients that I work with, I have to, even though they come to me and I want to be on Broadway, or I want to be in a film, or I want to be on TV. When a manager first works with someone brand new, whether it's an adult even, they want that person to be willing to do everything and anything. Because even though the majority of young adults and adults want to be in film and on television, that's not always what might be perfect and correct for them. So I had a client years ago, to give you an example. His name was Joey, and he came to me. He was a high school student. He wanted musical theater so bad, very tall, very buff, like he had the whole physique of like a model, like he had all of it. And he came to me and we went through everything, and I worked with him and his mom and the singing portion of musical theater. So for those of you who don't follow performing arts, in musical theater, you have to sing, dance, and act. You have to be able to do all 3 of those equally well. Yeah, so he wanted to be in musical theater, and he couldn't really stay on pitch. He had a really hard time, and he'll admit this now, but he had a really hard time. So he was young yet, so you don't want to, say, you want to kind of nurture the training and all of that to see if that would change, certainly. But I said to him, I really think you should go into high fashion modeling. I really think you could be doing all kinds of like runway work, and you could be doing campaigns for like Calvin Klein and like, name a very high-end brand. He had the face, the build, the whole thing. So we connected him. Once I got him connected to the industry, what happened? The first manager says to him, "You're going into high fashion modeling." And the rest was really history, because he ended up getting signed with a big agent, VNY Models in New York City. And the rest was really history. He traveled the world while he was 15, 16, and 17 years old, while he was still in high school. Luckily, the high school let him graduate from the school at the time. But yeah, he was in Fiasco magazine. He did campaigns for very high-end products. Yeah, and he's had a wonderful career. He's probably one of the top winners financially as well of all my clients. But yeah, Yeah, and
Recently, I was
then
listening to your podcast, and there was a recent case, right? Someone that got a role in a production. It is a young lady. What's her name?
Hannah.
Hannah.
Hannah? Yeah, Hannah Bonnet. Yes. She's been my client for a very long time as well. She came to me when she was, I know she'll let me share this, when she was 14, and she was dyeing her hair and wearing false eyelashes every day and wearing a lot of makeup. And she came to me and started training with the people that I connect everyone to, and with me as well. And I said, Hannah, it's really hard. You're 14 and you look like you're 25. Like, I don't know what to say, because there is that age range that you have to worry about with children. Like, what age range could I play? What age range could you play? It's the same for the kids. So here I had a 14-year-old who was underage, who could only play like 20 to 25. I said, we have to do something. There's got to be a change that's going to happen here. And she was also very mature for her age as well. So she stuck with it, and we helped her get into Pace University for musical theater. So she had just graduated, and then she started working with me personally, one-on-one again, for the year following her graduation. And she booked a number of different things. She booked a cruise ship, and then she booked a show that was an out of town of a new Broadway show that was happening in Chicago. She actually called me upset because she had to get off the boat. She's like, what am I going to do? I should go do that, or should I stay on the boat? I said, get off the boat. You need to go. You need to go to the next level up job wise. So yeah. So then this past summer, she booked the leading role in the national tour of Legally Blonde. She's playing Elle Woods nationally. And I told her, I said, the floodgates are going to open, girlfriend, because every city, all the press and the promo, everything, they all want to talk to her. Her whole life has changed, but she worked really hard, really hard.
You know, what I like about what you do, Leesa, is that, I know a lot of people that they try to be singers, they try to be dancers, they try to be whatever, right? Actors, actresses, and they resent the fact that they couldn't, and they're now willing to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
On the contrary, you had your career, and then you decided to dedicate your life to help others have their careers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been doing this with such love and commitment and openness, and you're really building the bridge people need to take their talent and into a profession, right? Into a living they love. And it's so, and I've seen, when I was this little kid, right? And I was dancing and singing and performing, and I wanted to be in the entertainment business, but I didn't have a clue how to do it, right? So of course I took the regular route and became an engineer. Then I became a business manager, then an executive, then a consultant. And I love everything I do. I'm not going to say I love everything I do, because I put art in everything I do.
Yes.
But to see you dedicating your life to build the bridge, to make things simpler, to show the path, to help them avoid the mistakes, avoid the traps, avoid the schemes and the scams. It's beautiful, because those talented people, they need someone like you they can trust, they can work with. You are honest, you're straightforward, you are truthful, and it's a pleasure to work with. I don't need to say you're fabulous, because you're already here. So if you're here, you are fabulous, right? So it's amazing. I really I feel blessed to be here with you and to witness this.
Thank you.
And,
yeah, I felt the same way, I think, and I didn't really realize it. Like the kind of aha moment wasn't until I was about 35 years old when I realized I was really talented, and my heart and my soul wanted to be in the industry and needed to be in the industry. And some other power was throwing all these opportunities in front of me. And I didn't have the insight. I didn't have the mentor. I didn't have the guidance, And so I feel like I've been put here to give that to people. Like there's a reason I didn't end up on Broadway. There's a reason that things worked the way they did. And I enjoyed every part of my journey, because I've also worked in casting, and I've also worked for productions, and I've done producing, and I've done all these things. But what has been wonderful about it is not only was I doing it myself, but then with I have 3 boys that are all full grown, obviously at this point. And they all got involved in the industry when they were 10 and 6 and 8 months old, because the 10-year-old at the time wanted to be on a cover of a magazine like her friend, or his friend. And so I ended up getting them involved for a short time at that time. And then the 2 youngest ones ended up being involved 9 years later, after being fully trained and wanting to specifically do it. And they're very, very successful, in the industry. My son, Kevin, just was in the West Side Story. I think I told you, Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, the movie. He played one of the Jets. He played Diesel and sang one of the songs, Officer Krupke. So yeah, and my other son is on Broadway right now in Funny Girl. So their stories and their journeys have been crazy. But I wasn't a crazy stage mother. Like, I think if anybody's out there listening and you're a crazy stage mother, you have to bring it down a notch or two, because that doesn't work. Like, it doesn't, no one really survives if they're that way with it. So I was not like that. We just said yes to things. We started saying yes to things. And yeah, so I just always found the joy in their joy. If that makes sense. That sounds very strange, doesn't it?
No,
but
that sounds perfect to me.
That's exactly what it was.
That's why I decided to become a speaker and coach, because I find joy in their success. I really feel complete when I'm able to help someone else to prosper and grow, and it's amazing.
Same, exactly. Yeah. And I have a lot of testimonials where people say that she treats her clients as if they're her own children. And it doesn't matter if you're a child, teen, or adult, she still treats you as though she's your mom. But yeah, I am truly very frank with everyone. I am no nonsense. And it's sad that there's not information out on the internet, or there's not information out there that is true and real. And I think part of it is because people who do find their way, struggled to find their way, went off and got off the path, and did all the things and had the grit and had the fortitude and had the work ethic to get there, and they don't want to give it away. They don't want to share it. And it's honestly, sadly, because I'm not going to take a role from someone who looks just like me. And even if they look just like me, if I'm not right for the role, I'm not going to take the role from that person, and that person's not going to take it from me, because if I'm right for the role, I'm going to get the role. If you're right for the role, you're going to get the role, because it's all about the project and what the person is producing. It's not really about, okay, you are talented.
Personal rejection. It's not a personal rejection.
It is not.
It's to be the right person to each role. This is what people need to know.
Yeah, very much so. I think that's definitely a point that a lot of people get confused with. They think, I'm so talented. I've worked so hard. I've done all of this. I should be the one to get the call back. I should be the one to have booked that job. And they can't get their mind or wrap their mind around the fact that the writers wrote a story. And the writers wrote a story with these particular characters, and they had a vision of who those characters would be, what they would look like, how tall they would be, the relationships to each other. And you can't control that as an actor or as an actress who is in the audition room. All you can do is be yourself. All you can do is go in and do what you can do. And it is very, very rewarding for me to not only see the child, teen, or young adult grow in this process, but also to see the parent, because I deal with many, many parents, and I see the parent grow and change and learn how this industry works enough so that they can raise a child or teen in the business in a safe and appropriate way.
I like this, in a safe and appropriate way, because people are scared to death with so many sad stories, right? People get involved in drugs and alcohol after they become stars, as if that was the only way and the certain way to go after you become rich and famous in a young age. And it's not. We have so many people that are successful and did not get involved with any of that. And so you certainly provide this safe path to educate both the talent and the parents in the process.
Yeah, it's sad that the news outlets tend to focus on those negative stories when there's thousands and thousands of people who are successful and work in the performing arts. And there's other ways to work in the performing arts too that a lot of people don't realize.
I don't know if I told you this. I had a band in Brazil and I did motivational speeches with live music.
That's very cool.
I would write the songs and sing the songs and dance in between my speeches, right? And that was a way I found, because when I was singing in the night, right, in nightclubs, I didn't like the environment, people smoking and drinking and drugs and so I am a family man. So I said, well, how can I be in the performing arts without being in that environment? So, okay, I'm going to launch myself as a motivational speaker with live music. And then I was performing 5-star hotels and business hours, no smoke, no drinks,
nice,
higher pay. So
that's amazing.
We find a
way. So you were up on stage and you were dancing and singing?
Dancing like Michael Jackson and Elvis, singing like Elvis and
cool.
Frank Sinatra, and my own songs as well. And doing my motivational speech in between the songs.
Oh my, I love it. That's the way to keep everyone's attention. It's
called Motiva music.
I love that. Motiva music. Motivation
and music. Motiva
I love it. I love that. Yeah, it's
as you said, there's many ways to get into this business, and you can create your own way, as you did, as I did. You can even either the industry and you know the paths, the routes to go into or you can create your own path and also be successful and happy in doing so.
Yeah, part of what I do with the clients is I help them to build a resume. So when they start working with me, we immediately start to talk about submitting yourself directly to casting. And there's ways of doing that. So I teach how to do that. We submit all of their assets. So their headshot, their resume, any videos that they have of them singing and dancing. See, I could do this for you, Fabio.
Let's see what happens.
I'm going to get you on a TV show before, the end of the year. Okay.
We should do that. Let's be an example of what we're talking about here.
There we go. I love that. Yeah. So then we take the assets. So, films of them dancing, films of them singing, films of them doing a scene. And we start submitting these things to casting offices for work, and in the hopes that they will start to book some of these things. Now, some of them are low pay or they're no pay, but the whole point of it is to get resume lines on that resume in the field and the direction you want to go to, so that then you're more palatable, or your child or teen is more palatable to an agent or a manager, so that you can actually get rep. Because the goal is to actually have a professional representative, an agent or a manager, because they're the ones that are going to get you into the highest level auditions that there are in the industry. And that's what the ultimate goal is. So, yeah, so we do that.
For those of you watching, fun fact, first time I met Leesa, she said I would get a part in CSI. For some reason, I don't know why she said that. And now
NCIS.
CIS.
NCIS, yeah, I said you could get a part.
I don't know now if it's going to be dancing, singing, or getting a part of CIS. Anyway, let's see. Stay tuned to the end of the year. Let's see what happens. I'm
telling you, we should do it. We're going to get all your assets. You have a lot of that already available to you. You know what I mean? So we could easily, Don't you guys think, let's have them put some notes in the comments. Don't they think, I think that you could easily play a lawyer, an attorney, someone on like Law and Order, SVU, you could be an NCIS. There's so many different sitcoms that you could play various characters. So I think, you could be a businessman, a high level, you could be the bad guy who really ends up being the good guy, or you could be the good guy that turns out to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
I think you could be either one of
Many
those.
ideas now.
I know. I'm like, I'm going to start looking at breakdowns.
I love your idea. People, if you're watching, if you understand what we're talking about here, write down in the comments, what role do you think I can play?
Exactly. I think
with the proper guidance from Leesa, because without guidance, I would be lost. I know I'll be lost. I'll be all over the place, but with guidance, maybe.
There you go. Yeah, you could do it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, there's ways of obtaining some work so that it appears that you've been on a set. They're going to look to see, has he been on a set? Does he know what that's like? Does he know, how to be appropriate on the set, and be prepared and do all the things. And then as that is happening, as we are submitting for projects, at the same time as you did, you can create your own projects. You can do your own thing, whether that's performing, for children or teens, performing at a local talent show, or singing at, maybe there's a restaurant nearby that they would allow an older teen or a college student to go in and play the guitar and sing songs while people eat dinner. And that's the line item for your resume, So it's all good.
For people to get in contact with you and more, because of course we don't have enough time to cover everything here.
I know, so I would love to.
Let's share with people what is the best way for them to get in contact with you. Maybe schedule a conversation so you can really help them decide what is the proper way to go.
Sure. Yeah, they can go to lbctalent.com, lbctalent.com. And they can go through the contact page there. They can also email me directly at Leesa, Leesa, at lbctalent.com. And that would come directly to me. And yeah, we can set up a free consult strategy session. I'd love to hear, honestly, I love to hear their stories. I want to hear what their journey was and is and what their hopes and dreams are. So I love to listen to parents talk about their kids and their teens and what they see in them. It's very exciting for me.
Perfect. And when you call Leesa, tell her, what is the role do you think Fabio Marques will be more appropriate? Let's see what it goes. Leesa, has been a pleasure talking to you. You are really fabulous. It's an honor for me to have you here today. I hope we have more of these in the future.
I would love that.
Let's try to make this little project Fabio Marques work so we can come back here and show everybody that it works.
Yes. I think
even Fabio Marques, a 52-year-old, can make it.
Absolutely.
With the proper guidance of the right coach.
I'm ready. And thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
It is because you are fun, you are real, and I love to talk to people like you. You really are making this world a better place. This is the International Excellence Society show, where I only bring people that I believe are really living in the level of excellence with total integrity, adding value to other people. And you are right there, my friend. It's been a pleasure meeting you and talking to you today again.
Same.
I hope we really grow this relationship so we can help a lot of other people.
I love that.
Make their dreams come true.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Fabio.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.